What do you think will be the main trends that we'll see play out next year when it comes to digital wallets?
Yeah, I think next year and maybe the next couple of years will be really exciting time. A lot of change have been happening, and I expect in the next year, a lot more of those changes will pick up pace. And if I had to narrow it down to a few things, ironically, I think one thing is we're going to see digital wallets become a lot more like our old school physical wallets. And what I mean by that is, you're going to see the utility of digital wallets grow, right? Like think about the things that used to be in your wallet, in your physical wallet, things like, IDs, loyalty cards, different types of credentials. Many more of those are being digitized, and it's not going to be new, but it's certainly, I think, an acceleration in the next year or two. You'll see many more of those things into your digital wallet, and you can maybe finally get rid of the physical wallet. That's probably one big trend. And then on the other hand, I think that we're also going to see digital wallets really, take off on certain things that you could never have imagined in a physical wallet, right? And I'm thinking about things like, very, newer payment methods. It could be crypto, it could be stable coins. We're already starting to see, different payment methods like, buy now, pay later, or paying with points, all those kind of richer capability, right? More innovative, expansive types of payment methods that get integrated into digital wallets. And I think we're just going to continue to see an explosion in that. And maybe one more would be, I think we might actually see more wallets, right? If you look back a decade or more ago, there were many wallets, and in the last several years, it's sort of, consolidated down to a few, right? The larger, I would call them big tech wallets that are, global, and you can really use them anywhere. I think you'll see more wallets for a couple reasons. One is, whether it's other tech players, I'm thinking about buy now, pay later players, they can start to issue their own wallets, right? Or crypto players, right? Crypto wallets could become more mainstream if there's more acceptance and usage. And so you can start to see more wallets come back into the market. But there's also another trend, which is, again, not necessarily new, but I see it picking up. It's, maybe more local wallets or national wallets that not intended to be global, right? But, in countries in Europe and certainly the, Scandinavian countries, that's been a trend that's been playing out. But I expect to see that, or even in Asia Pacific, right? But I think in the US and where I am here in Canada, I expect to see that, play out here in the next couple of years.
That's actually a perfect segue to my next question, talking about local payment schemes. So you recently announced your role in the new platform Connect. Is that how you pronounce it?
Connect, yeah.
Connect. Okay.
It's spelled Konek. So, I think we'll see how users like to call it, but we've been calling it Connect.
Got it. Which I think for American viewers and readers is probably similar to Zelle or Venmo. Would that be fair? Bank-to-bank transfer? Or how would you characterize
I think it's actually, it's more like Pays. So I think that's, that's probably the best analogy. And Pays is also new, but it's a digital checkout solution or digital wallet that's, US based, launched by large US banks. And, Connect is very much an analogy to that in Canada. It's really only intended to be used in Canada, built by Canadian institutions for Canadians here. And so that's, I would say, the most closest analogy. There are many more, as I mentioned, in Nordic countries like Sweden has something called Swish, and Norway has something called Vips, and Blick in Poland. So there are lots of different brand names, but all of them are, ostensibly national payment wallets or payment checkout solutions. What it's most like, I suppose, with what a lot of users or listeners might be familiar with is basically something like PayPal, right? An online checkout solution, except in this case, meant to be kind of national or more local. And in many cases, it's started by local industry, right? Local financial industry or ecosystems.
And how do you see that sitting and working alongside the other things you offer? Obviously, you have physical credit, debit cards, you partner with big tech companies you alluded to earlier. How does this fit into the overall strategy? What's the purpose? What's the gap that you're pursuing here, or need that you're addressing?
Yeah, I think a couple of things, right? Like first of all, like as good as the large wallets have been, and they've grown, right? Like from 10 years ago to now, there's been, certainly very, healthy growth. Having said that, depending on how you measure, like it's somewhere between, 20% to, less than half the market are using it. So the penetration is nowhere near, you know, um, ubiquitous. And so there's, first of all, lots of room to grow, right? And that's, I think, across the kind of global tech wallets, as well as an opportunity for, newer upstarts like these national payment, checkout solutions or wallets like Connect. I think one of the things that, local wallets can do is to be much more localized. And in the case of Connect, one of the, payment methods, in addition to, credit card, network debit cards, right? Those ones that would exist already in pretty much all other wallets will be a new account-to-account payment scheme, right? And it's called Interact Direct. The Interact is the national debit system here in Canada, and the banks have worked with Interact to develop this new account-based payment system, payment method. And so that will be something that's new, and we actually expect Connect to be a bit of a platform, right, for more sort of localized or bespoke Canadian innovation, right? Whether it's new payment methods, local or domestic loyalty networks, right? More Canadian buy now pay later solutions. All of those things can be more customized, right, to the Canadian marketplace and the solution that's really only meant for Canada. And so, not that it's meant to replace or displace other solutions. I just think that there's a lot more room there is to grow, and everyone will use more than one wallet. Like when you're traveling elsewhere, you're ordering off of a website from outside Canada, you'll probably use a Google Pay or a PayPal or Apple Pay. We just think that for Canadians, buying in Canada and using their payment methods in Canada, that a Canadian solution can compete. And there are ways of I think building better experiences for Canadians.
One huge source of revenue for banks is interchange. So on the back of every single credit card transaction, you make some money. And if the consumers are instead switching to this platform and transferring it from their bank account to the merchant's bank account, you are not earning that interchange. So how do you strike the balance between wanting and retaining that interchange and offering that service to customers, whilst at the same time trying to build effectively an alternative that could take some of that revenue away?
Yeah.
What's the thinking there, the overall strategy, I suppose?
Yeah, I mean, certainly that's one consideration, but it's not the primary consideration. And frankly, we have consumers, but we also have merchants, and they're all our clients. And we know like merchants are always looking for ways of lowering their cost to do business, right? And one of the ways that we can help them is to introduce new lower cost payment methods for them to be able to accept and do business that way. But at the end of the day, it's much more about being able to just create more options and more choice, right? And in terms of how consumers choose to pay, like that's really going to be up to consumers. And so on the one hand, like consumers could prefer to pay with their accounts, right? They want to spend the money that they have in their bank accounts, and we want to make that an option that's available to them, right? In a convenient and secure and seamless sort of way. On the other hand, and again, this might be a bit of a Canadian attribute. Like Canadians love their loyalty programs. And I think the stat is something like, every Canadian on average have more than 11, loyalty program memberships. And a lot of those are tied to, paying with a credit card, or paying with, store cards and so forth. Right. So I think that's how, consumers are going to choose. Like, and again, like the some of the payments come with, insurance or price protection or fraud protection and those kinds of added benefits. So it's not just going to be about interchange. And for us, it's really a lot more about creating more options and letting both consumers and our merchants choose.
And you mentioned this could be a bit of a platform, but zooming out a little bit, I talk quite often about the new bank stack, how fintechs or innovators are beholden or needing to partner with the traditional financial institutions like you guys to deliver their new innovative services to end users. What are some examples where RBC is doing that today? Some good case studies or anything that is particularly successful?
Yeah, well, I mean, first of all, that's not anything new. I would say, like, this notion of banks working with partners, and many times it's more technology led partners, and so I've personally been involved in this sort of type of work for over a decade, and so it's an area that I'm quite passionate and also excited about. Examples can go everywhere from like a large partnership we recently announced is actually working with a Canadian AI company called Cohere, right? We're working with them on helping them develop LLMs and more sort of enterprise hardened and ready applications of LLMs. Because if you think about most of the other companies that are out there, they're consumer oriented, right? Or at least they start with the consumer. And Cohere is a Canadian company that we're in a partnership with to help them develop enterprise led use cases. That's probably one of the most recent and one of the most exciting ones. Historically, we've done a lot, whether it's working with smaller, startup or fintech companies, really with RBC as a bit of an accelerator. And, so we worked with, partnering, sometimes investing, sometimes acquiring technology companies. And, even today, like we have services that, help with billing for medical professionals. It's called Dr. Bill. And that was something that, we did through an acquisition of a, paytech startup. We have another venture, we call them ventures, called Owner, that we really started in-house, right? And then brought in, additional sort of almost acqui-hires into that work. And it's really about helping small businesses as they're starting up, deal with business registrations, get through all the legal paperwork, and of course, they open their bank account. And so those are, working with kind of larger tech or smaller tech companies. And I think one more example I would give is, in our loyalty space, we're very proud actually of our Avion loyalty program. It's the largest bank-owned loyalty program and one of the largest loyalty programs in Canada. And within that program, we actually partner with, I would call them sort of affiliate marketing technology companies to bring, more offers to our partners or to our clients and members. We also work with merchant partners, right? Some of the largest retailers in the country, partnering with us to, through technology, deliver, rich both offers and experiences to our members and to our clients. There are many more, and there are some exciting ones that are in the works that I can't really speak about yet, and we're going to be announcing something early in the new year in a very exciting space. But like I said, it's certainly not a new space, nor is it something that we intend to stop anytime soon, because the partnerships is how we bring in innovation and just new capabilities and experiences for the benefit of our clients and our, in the case of Avion, for members.
Gabriel, sounds very exciting. Look forward to hearing more about that in due course.
Sure.
Thank you very much for your insight. Appreciate that and look forward to hearing more from you in the not too distant future then.
Yeah, thanks very much. It's my pleasure.